I think because it's 4 o'clock, 4 p.m. and some of us who are joining later, we have friends from, oh my gosh,
Uzbekistan.
Uzbekistan who are joining us, and it's 2 a.m. in the morning there. So we'll go ahead and start immediately. And I wouldn't take actually much time. All I want to do is to welcome everybody to our tea time, the very first one in the spring semester. I'm seeing very many new faces here. Please welcome today and every single time. Just to mention, the link that you used to sign in today is the same link that you can use for all tea times. We might want to share actually the schedule with the people that joined us today for the whole semester. So then if you have time, if you're able to join another session, you're able to do that. So please feel welcome. I'll introduce myself. My name is Damaris Choti. I work at the African Studies Center at Michigan State University as a student and alumni engagement coordinator. And the African Tea Time is one of the events that we host at the center. It's held bi-weekly with the African Studies Center for sure, but in collaboration with a student group called Kongamano. And this Kongamano student group includes everyone. It's not students from Africa, it's students from all over. Anybody that is interested in Africa can be a member and actually can even be in the e-board. And so we welcome everyone to Kongamano. We'll share that information. I know the social media director for Kongamano is going to join us later, and maybe she'll give that information at the end of the session. At this point, I want to welcome our facilitator for the tea time today. We have 3 facilitators for tea time events. One of them is Ebenezer Ansah. He's here, sorry, and he's going to be facilitating the event for today. There are 2 more. I'm not going to introduce them, but just know that we have 3 of them. And when you see a different facilitator every other tea time, just know that we are so richly blessed to have so many people that work to make this event successful. At this point, I will turn the time to Ebenezer, and I'll invite him to introduce the speaker for today. We're very grateful and feel special to have our speaker for today. So please, Eben.
All right, great. Thanks a lot, Damaris, for that quick general introduction to tea time. So my name becomes easier and makes me more popular if it's shortened to Eben. So you can just call me Eben, everyone. And hello and good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Good morning. Welcome to the African Tea Time, which, as Damaris mentioned, is hosted by the African Studies Center at Michigan State University and the Kongamano student group. So Kongamano has 2 main events or programs that we host. And one of them is the tea time, where we come and sit and chat about Africa, learn about African countries through mostly first-hand experiences. People from the continent or people who have lived or worked in the continent come and talk to us about what life and experiences are there on the continent. The other program that we used to have, unfortunately, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we weren't able to have it the past year, and that's the Taste of Africa, where we gather and then make merry and then have good food from Africa. So last semester, we had to shift African Tea Time to this virtual space, that's the Zoom, because of what we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic. But it's actually been a very good experience. I would call it a blessing in disguise, actually, because the fact that we are virtual now has given a lot of people who would love to be part of tea time but couldn't because we're having it on campus. Now they have the opportunity to join no matter where they are. So we counted a blessing in disguise. And so last semester we were able to have virtual tea times where we talked about several topics that relate to the COVID-19 and how it's been experienced and managed on the African continent. So the structure of tea time is such that every day we have mostly 2 countries, and then we talk about first-hand experiences of life from those 2 countries. Sometimes we talk about similar topics. Sometimes we have special topics that we talk about for each country. So last semester, that's the fall semester, we had countries like Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, and the rest representing. And so this spring semester, we are going to focus on some of those countries that we didn't focus on in the fall semester. Unfortunately, we are not able to find presenters from all of the countries. And so sometimes by the end of the school year, some of the countries are not represented, but that's fine. We try as much as possible to make sure that from time to time we get presenters from all the other countries so that we are able to learn from about all the other countries. So we are starting this semester, and for that matter, the year 2021, with a presentation or a conversation about Cameroon. Initially, we had planned to do Cameroon and Gambia, but it appears that there is a lot to talk about Cameroon when it comes to the topic for today, which is the European legacies in Africa. And so it's good that today we have a very renowned professor from Cameroon to talk to us about European legacies in Africa, with a focus on Cameroon and what happened in Cameroon during the colonial days, together with what has happened after independence and what is happening in the present day Cameroon that we can call the legacies of Europeans in Africa. And so I wouldn't take too much time. Our presenter for today is Dr. Emmanuel Yewah. Prof, forgive me if I don't mention the name
That's
correctly.
Yewah. That's good.
Yewah. Great, great. And Professor is the department chair and professor of French at Albion College. And he's talking to us, as I said, about Cameroon and some of the things that the history of Europeans on the continent and in that part of the continent has brought the country to at this point. So at this point, I will turn it over to Prof, and then he will talk to us for some time. And then when his talk is over, we will invite discussion points and questions from all of us gathered here, and then we'll have some discussions after his presentation is over. So I will entreat us all to put our questions that will come.
You're frozen.
Looks like Eben is frozen.
Yeah.
But at this point, I think Dr. Yewah, you can begin.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much for Eben. I mean, when he comes back for the introduction.
Well, thank you all for coming. It will be the second time that I talk about Cameroon on tea time. The first time it was face to face, so at least I could use facial expressions, use some gestures and so on to fill in the blanks. Today is I did not prepare something very, very academic because I prepared something for a general audience, which means everyone will have something to get from here. Most of the talk will be based on certain facts about Cameroon, but at the same time, those facts would come with critical inquiries or with questions raised about those very facts that I'll be presenting to you. As you can see from the title of the talk, European Legacies in Africa, and then I have here the case of Camaroes, Cameroon. Again, from the title already, you can begin to see that I'm not dealing with different European powers' encroachment on Cameroon. This started, and I would start. This started in 1472, when a navigator, I'll call him an adventurer, happened to arrive at the coast of Cameroon at the mouth of a river called Vuri, and this is one of the longest rivers in the country that empties itself into the Atlantic Ocean. So when he arrived, when Fernando Po, that's his name, from Portugal, arrived there in 1472, he discovered to his amazement that in that river, there were a lot of shrimps. It was full of shrimps. So he named the river at that place. I mean, this is a river that had its name already, but he renamed it the River of the Shrimps, which means Rio dos Camaroes in Portuguese. Rio dos Camaroes in Portuguese. The name was then later attributed to the whole territory. So it went from the name of a river to the name of a country. So it became Camaroes. So Cameroon actually means shrimp. Yeah, so this was in 1472. And then, so from 1472 up to 1884, Cameroon was then Camaroes. Then 1884, December 1884 to January 1885, if you can remember the Berlin Conference, during which Africa was partitioned to different European powers. And for one reason or the other, Cameroon went to Germany. So Germany, so Cameroon became then a German territory from 1885. Now, with the German being the colonial masters at the time, the name changed then from Camaroes to Cameroon with a K, K-A-M-E-R-U-N, Cameroon, which would be the German spelling for Cameroon. So this, the Germans, of course, introduced a lot of things. They constructed roads, railways, and different things. They helped in the development of their territory. But almost 20 years later, if I would say, perhaps less than 20 years later, the First World War started in 1914. And of course, you will know that Germany was the aggressor during the First World War. So in a sense, so it started in 1914, and then 1916, the French and the British as allies invaded Cameroon, a German territory, invaded Cameroon and occupied it. So 1916 then starts the occupation of Cameroon by the French and the British. And of course, as you can tell, the spelling of the name would change from starting with K to starting with C, Cameroon in English. That's C-A-M-E-R-O-O-N in English. And then in French, it will be Cameroon, C-A-M-E-R-O-U-N. And so these are the names that Cameroon has carried all through. 1919 then, 1919, at the end of the First World War, these territories were therefore mandated by the League of Nations, to the French and the British. But the British had their own colony in Nigeria. They had their own colony in Nigeria. As a result of that, part of Cameroon, the southern part, they'll call it Southern Cameroons, was attached to Eastern Nigeria. So it was administered from Eastern Nigeria as a German territory. Sorry, as a British territory. The other part of it remained with the French. So about 4/5 remained with the French, 1/5 was administered from Nigeria. And so this is where it became a League of Nations mandate up until 1945, following the Second World War. In 1946, then, it became a trusteeship of the United Nations. So from 1946 then to 1960, Cameroon was a trusteeship of the United Nations. 1st of January 1960, the French part of Cameroon gained its token independence from France. I say token because in spite of the fact that we thought that Cameroon was independent, the French remained in the background. So October 1st, 1961, there was a referendum put to the southern part of Cameroon, southwestern part of Cameroon, southern Cameroons, that was attached to Nigeria. There was a referendum put to them as to whether they wanted to remain as part of Nigeria or if they wanted to reunify with their brothers and sisters from the eastern side of the French side. And so they voted then for reunification with the East Cameroon, forming on October 1st, 1961, what would then be called the Federal Republic of Cameroon. The Federal Republic of Cameroon. Now, so again, and at that time they adopted French and English as the official languages of the country with equal status. Now, 1966, Cameroon officially became a one-party state. Because they merged all the parties, both from the English-speaking side and the French-speaking side, to form one party called Cameroon National Union, CNU, or UNC in French. So from then, you begin to see a pattern occur that it's slowly, what were a federation of two states slowly becomes one, with the multi-party merging into one single party. In 1972, there was a referendum called to see if the Cameroon could become instead a unitary state. And the referendum passed, and Cameroon changed names again from Federal Republic of Cameroon to United Republic of Cameroon. Now, the problem the question that was not raised at the time, and which will come back maybe to Hans or to do this, was that instead of saying United Republics in plural, they simply said United Republic, which means the minority in that union would slowly be engulfed by the majority. which to me is again, it's a process of assimilation, which is of course is reminiscent of the French colonial policy of assimilation. And this means that Cameroon had studied their history well. The French speaking especially had learned their history well. The French had succeeded in assimilating the Francophones, and now the Francophones had used a lesson to assimilate the Anglophones, the English speakers. So this happens in 1972. 1982, the first president of the country, who had been there since 1st of January 1960, Amadou Ahidjo, stepped down voluntarily and handed over power to his constitutional successor, the prime minister at the time, by the name of Paul Biya. So you know that even today, till today, Paul Biya remains the president of Cameroon. That's almost 40 years later. So 1982 then, that's what happens. 1985, something else happened. Now, for some reason, for one reason or the other, the name of the party changes to CPDM, Cameroon National Democratic People's Movement. Again, remains a one-party state with a new president. Something else happens. The name of Cameroon reverts back to the name of Cameroon at independence. So it reverts back to the Republic of Cameroon. Now, again, you can see that in Republic of Cameroon, it's the name that the French side of Cameroon had. So by reverting back to that, they had completely locked out the Anglophone. So you can see how things are building up to a certain point where there will be an explosion, because systematically, the English-speaking side of the country is slowly assimilated, their structures slowly destroyed. And this is in 1985. Early 1990 then begins the process of democratization, where there's a process of multi-party politics. But what happens here is that the multi-party scheme in Cameroon ends up being a way to subvert the very process of democratization, the very process of multi-parties, in the sense that the parties, there's an explosion in the number of parties in the country, to the point that the number of registered parties went from 1 to 253. So there were 253 parties registered, which gave the party in power then a way to saying, we're not democratizing, we're tribalizing. Because this number of parties is almost similar to the number of ethnic groups in Cameroon. So Cameroon has a total, it has over 240 ethnic groups with about 240 local language groups as well. So you can see from here that Cameroon is slowly, it's at the same time talking of democracy. On the one hand, they're talking of democracy. On the other hand, they're diluting the very idea of democracy. They're diluting it by creating a plethora of parties. As I said at the beginning, there's a process in here. There's a process of marginalizing one group. There's a process of engulfing one group. There's a process of assimilating one group. And as a result of that assimilation, as a result of that process, things will come to the head in 2016. So leading to the kind of crisis that we have today in Cameroon, they call it the Anglophone Crisis, where the minority Anglophone population found themselves marginalized from everything. And then they decided that they had enough, and then went into started from demonstrations to open violence. It's been going on since 2017. It's still ongoing. So that's where I'll end with the history, with the brief history of Cameroon. But I should have started by actually situating Cameroon geographically. But I was so taken away by the history that I thought I should go from history back to geography. Now, if you accept what some people have said about the shape of Africa, if you consider that the shape of Africa is shaped as a pistol or a handgun, then the trigger for that handgun is Cameroon. So put Africa this way, and the trigger will be here, and that trigger will be in Cameroon. That's where Cameroon is located. Cameroon is, again, the western part of the country is almost in West Africa, and the eastern part of the country is in the Central African region. So Cameroon straddles between West Africa and Central Africa. It's bordered on the west, one of the longest borders you have, land borders that you have, by a most powerful neighbor whose name starts with N, goes from north to south. And what would that N be? It would be Nigeria. So Cameroon is bordered on the west by Nigeria from north to south, and then by the Atlantic Ocean at some point. The northeast is Chad, or Lake Chad also. Lake Chad is part of it, and Chad, the Republic of Chad, will be in the northeast. East is Central African Republic. And then the south, you have Congo, southeast. You have Gabon, almost southwest, and Fernando Po. what I forgot to tell you was that when Cameroon was a German territory, it extended to as far as almost close to Bangui in Central African Republic. And then part of Gabon was Cameroon under the Germans. And the northwestern part and southwestern part were part of Nigeria as well, of Cameroon. That's borders with Nigeria, the part of Cameroon. So that's basically the geography of the country. Now the size, Cameroon is about 183,569 square miles. And the population as of last year, 2019, is close to 26 million. I think it will be more than that. It's close to 26 million. Just a little bit larger than the state of California, if I may place it that way. Now, let's move on to another aspect of Cameroon, which would be, let me go to the smaller things, which would be the flag of Cameroon. Now, Cameroon flag, of course, has the Pan-African colors. Pan-African colors, that's green, red, yellow. Those are Pan-African colors, basically modeled on the Ethiopian flag. That was the first African flag. And then modeled also after the Ghanaian flag. That was the first African independent state. And usually they're asked to, what do those different colors stand for? For the case of Cameroon, they simply stand for the fact that the green will represent the luxuriant vegetation. The yellow will represent what? The sun, hope for the future. And then the red will represent the blood of nationalists spilled fighting for independence. I forgot to mention at the beginning that Cameroon is affectionately called Africa in miniature. Africa in miniature in the sense that Cameroon has all the vegetational belts of Africa contained in the country. That's why they call it Africa in miniature. So you go from almost desertic north to tropical rainforest in the south, through the savanna in the middle, and so on. So that's why Cameroon is called affectionately Africa in miniature. We have also copied something from the French in that we call it geometrically, in terms of geometry, we call it a triangle. The triangle, you know, the French, they call it hexagon, the shape of the country. So we in Cameroon will call it le triangle, the triangle, which means a triangle. So again, so the flag, of course, has one star in the middle. So it's green, red, yellow. On the red, there's a star representing, of course, one state. But prior to 1972, there were two stars. on the right, 2 stars representing the 2 federated states. And when Cameroon became a united republic, they dropped one of the stars. So a flag. Now, what about the motto of the country? That devise, they call it devise in French, the motto, which would, for Cameroon, would be peace, work, fatherland. Peace, work, fatherland. In terms of peace, Cameroon enjoyed shaky peace, relative peace, up to 2015. I say relative because, as any other country, it had its own problems, but they managed at least to stay in peace. So that's one of the mottos, peace. But this peace was shattered in 2016 when the crisis came to a head. And the crisis is still ongoing. They have not been able to find any solution. It's a lot of violence on the English-speaking side of the country, that's Northwest and Southwest regions. So work, in terms of work, like any other country, Cameroon has had problems of unemployment. And I would tell you that Cameroonians are some of the most hardworking people on earth. They work hard. But again, there's a problem of unemployment. Students graduate from the universities and have no jobs. So the promise enshrined in work is not being realized. And the last one is fatherland. The very idea of fatherland has become problematic because of the situation happening today in Cameroon. So peace, work, fatherland, all of them, I think, they no longer hold the promise envisaged when this was coined. What about the national anthem? Now, the national anthem of Cameroon, it's both in French and in English. In French, the only reference or the criticism of our national anthem in French especially is that besides the first line that says, "Au Cameroun, berceau de nos ancêtres," which in English would be, "O Cameroon, cradle of our forefathers." Besides that mention of Cameroon in the first line of the anthem in French, there's basically no reference to Cameroon at all. So the national anthem is very generic and could apply to any country. There's really no reference to Cameroon. And this is because because of the origin of the anthem. The anthem is supposed to have been started by students. It was a student assignment to students in Teachers Training College. In the Teachers Training College, it was an assignment for them to come up with a song. And when they came up with this song, and lo and behold, Their teacher was a Canadian, a French Canadian from Quebec, who asked them to write an assignment that later became the anthem of a country. And when you see "O Cameroon," it could remind you of "O Canada." It could remind you of "O Canada" because the Canadian anthem begins also "O Canada" and so on. So there have been a lot of discussion of the anthem, and this is what, and the criticism is that it's very generic, really no reference to Cameroon itself. On the other hand, the version of it in English, which is not really a version of it, is probably an interpretation of it in English, is much more Cameroonian centered because it makes deliberate references to fiscal features, to historical figures, and so on of Cameroon. So the English version of it is much more Cameroonian than the French version of it. Let me say, now at this point, let me go to the question of language. The question of language is a difficult one to discuss about Cameroon because, as I said earlier, the Cameroon has about 240 different ethnic groups, and the 40 different ethnic groups all come with their own local languages, which means to go for about 2 miles, you are between 2 language groups. As a result of that, of the fact that there were so many different languages at some point, there were so many different languages, Cameroon decided then to adapt, to inherit 2 European languages as official languages, which will be French and English. A lot of advantages having those 2 languages as official languages. There could have been a lot of advantages, somehow even in terms of personal development, even in international arena, where we present someone who is fluent in both French and English. But the way the power structure has handled that legacy has made it difficult then for Cameroon to achieve the promise that bilingualism set out to do. What the adoption of those 2 languages has meant for Cameroon is that the local languages have been neglected, marginalized, and even totally forgotten. The other problem with it is that the presence of those 2 languages and the attribution or the labels that go with them, and these labels include Anglophone for English speakers, Francophone for French speakers. The introduction of those labels has made it in such a way that it's very difficult for Cameroon to construct a national identity. It's difficult to construct a national identity in the sense that Cameroonians tend to refer themselves these days as either Anglophone or Francophone. And those are two concepts that are totally foreign to Cameroon. But they tend to identify themselves as, or they tend to address each other as Anglophone or Francophone. Some in derogatory terms, or they have devised other means to call each other. They will say Anglo, the shortened form, as a term of insult. And then the Anglophones will call the Francophone frogs. If you know France, you know frogs is a delicacy in France. So by calling them frogs, they are basically saying it's touched to the French. So when you use those labels, no one is no longer identified by their ethnic origin. No one is no longer identified by the national origin, but rather as from those levels. And it makes it so difficult to construct any identity as to that. In addition to French and English, a lot of Cameroonians will use a vehicular language called Pidgin English. Pidgin English is what will be spoken in the market, will be spoken between two people who neither speak French or English and who do not come from the same ethnic group. So they'll use Pidgin English. And again, for that, if Pidgin English is used by many Cameroonians, and if you want to attach identity to language spoken, it becomes a problem as well. So the attempt to construct either individual or national identity in Cameroon is very, very difficult. It's problematic, to say the least. So we have that problem. That's a problem, an outstanding problem. And one of the reasons we are where we are today with the crisis in the English-speaking side of the country is basically its origins lie in that question of language. And that in the beginning, a lot of things were road signs, official documents, everything was written both in French and in English. But with the process of assimilation, of marginalization, a lot of things in Cameroon now are written in French. And that it's part of an attempt to disappear the English language and those who have it as their own first written language. And these are all some of the problems that are the origin of the crisis that we have in Cameroon today. So we have political crisis, we have language crisis or linguistic crisis. We have crisis in different ways. Now, so the language. Now, at some point I said Cameroon is like many African countries, it's a country of multi everything. Everything is multiple. Okay. And so some of the things that are multiple in Cameroon, like it would be in many different countries in Africa, would be, of course, multi-ethnicity that I've mentioned already before. Cameroon has the dubious, not really dubious, but an example of being a nominal, that's in terms of names. So Cameroon has multiple names. We also, in terms of multi-ethnicities, as I said before, Cameroon has about 240 different ethnic groups. And they will range from the Fulanis in the north, who are closer to Chad, the Fulanis in the north, to the Bakas. Bakas are the people of the forest in the southern part of the country. A wide range of ethnicity. And this is, again, perhaps mirroring the migration patterns in Africa at some point. That many migrants, either coming from the west, from the north, from the south, decided to settle in Cameroon. So we have multi-everything. Another place where we show a multiplicity would be in terms of our laws, the laws in the country. Now, given that we inherited both the civil law and the common law, Cameroon then exercises both civil and common law. Besides that, we do have a practice of, I will not call it Sharia, but it's close to it in the northern part of the country. In addition to that, we do have customs, which will be customary laws. So again, Cameroon is this country that is working with multiple inherited legacies, and that's for the law. Another inheritance, another legacy would be found in our educational systems. Our educational system, Cameroon has both the educational system inherited from Britain and the educational system inherited from France. So we are dealing with two different systems. There has been an attempt to harmonize those two to come up with something Cameroonian, but so far it's not really worked out well. So we have that. I don't know whether you want me to stop at this point so that we have a discussion.
Here, sure. I mean, if you've exhausted the points that you wanted to share with us, we can go right ahead to the discussion, and perhaps some of the questions will continue the discussion.
Yeah.
All
so
right.
that's what I had to share with you this afternoon, and I would be more than happy to answer questions, comments to make, and so on, different things. That would be wonderful.
All right. First, I want to say thank you so much. This is wonderful. Always, every time you come and talk about Cameroon, There's so many new things to learn about, especially with this current situation in Cameroon. I mean, it's definitely something that we didn't talk about. Perhaps it's been like maybe more than 3 years since this crisis began. So this is new information. And the reason why we have these talks, sometimes it's not necessarily that we have solutions to everything.
Exactly.
But it's because the more we talk about it, the more we're enlightened, and the more, even on a personal level, we think about it as individuals, even the people that are here in this meeting today. What's my role? Or we question, we develop bigger questions. What are the circumstances that would be similar in my country, for example, in the region that I come from? So it just helps us question things, and it's always good to question even when you don't have answers to them, because it just helps you learn more, want to learn more, and want to position yourself and ask, what's my responsibility as a person? What's our responsibility as a group? So thank you so much. And I'm standing in for Eben. You remember he was our facilitator. He had to step out. So we will continue with the discussion. So one thing before I go to the chat and before I give the people here the chance to ask their questions verbally. One thing that you mentioned that really was spoke or stood out to me is about the national identity, because I know language is very prominent in building or developing a national identity. For example, I come from Kenya. I should give the country as an example, and we have 42. I mean, yours are way many, 240 different ethnic groups. We have about 42 different communities and different languages, and then their dialects in between. But then majorly we have 42 different ethnic groups, and those groups speak their own languages. Some would have some similarities, but definitely it's not obvious that you're able to understand your another ethnic group's language. So now as a Kenyan, I feel that I'm part of Kenya because we have a national language that's Swahili. Because we have all these different ethnic groups, ethnic languages, different cultures within those languages, I would say. But I feel more Kenyan because I can speak to my fellow Kenyan in Swahili as a language. So it's a national language for us. We have English, of course, and we have Swahili, which is a local language, I would say, that unites everyone. Not everybody speaks Swahili, and not everybody, again, speaks English, but it's a language that everybody connects to. Like maybe older people who never had a reason to travel outside their local communities don't have a reason to learn even Swahili, because they can communicate, they can trade within their local languages, using their local languages. But anybody that has to travel outside their local community definitely has to learn Swahili. So I'm just getting back to the point of national identity. It would be very difficult for myself to be proud of being Kenyan if I wouldn't be able to speak to my fellow Kenyan. So that's one big thing that I said that makes even this Anglophone and Francophone issue a big problem, because if you don't have a national identity, it's even very hard to speak about what your country is, you know? So it's not even a question. I'm just trying to problematize it even more. Like it's a huge problem. How to address it, we're not even going to talk about that, but perhaps you can give your opinion as you go. So
I think that one of the problems with Cameroon is that the only thing that they share is foreign.
Yeah.
The only thing that all of them share would be foreign, whether it's English or French.
I know, because it's foreign. Yeah, I definitely see it as a big problem myself, because I stand in there and it's very hard to position yourself. You don't want to, of course, you find yourself either in the French-speaking part of Cameroon or the English-speaking part of, there's nothing you can do about it. But as a Cameroonian, you'll always wish that this didn't happen.
Yeah.
You will have one Cameroon that is united in some way. So I'll leave my comment there. I mean, maybe it's going to open up to many more questions. And I'll want to go to the chat. We begin from there. Let's see. Somebody was asking about what about local languages in your country? This is I mean, I'm not going to say the name, but I don't know if you still they're still asking the question, like, what about local languages in your country? Maybe you can revisit that same comment with the local languages for.
Now, as I said before, before we had English and French, we had local languages. And as I said again, given that we have 240 different ethnic groups, those 240 different ethnic groups come with 240 different local language groups as well. Which means some of them could have some similarities in terms of pronunciation, and in some of them, the difference may just be in terms of intonation, where to place your tone. The word may be the same, but where you place a tone might just make it different. So when I talk of 240 different language groups, some of the variance may just be very subtle. Maybe very subtle. It could be point of intonation, where to the accent, where to put it, to place it. Is it at the end of the word or the beginning of the word? So some of those might just make a difference. Of course, there are large ethnic local languages, large groups. So in Cameroon, you have the Hausas in the north, Hausas, which would speak a language closer to Arabic. Okay, you have the Hausas in the north. You have the Bantu speaking language, and then you have the Bulus in the south, which they would speak a language close to that will go beyond their borders to Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, and so on. They will speak about the same language. Now, what the group that is a smallest group whose language had been used in a lot of music coming from Cameroon, who come from the Douala language, Douala, Makossa, and so on. It's sung in Douala. And Douala, if you look at it well, Douala has some similarities with Lingala in the Congo, has some similarities with Swahili, and so on. Even the way they speak, the intonation is much more like Lingala and Swahili. So we have those. There are some large pockets of languages besides the small, very small ones. Some of them you may have a population of only 10,000 who speak it, who speak that local language. Some of them you have a population like the Hausas in the north, you have millions who speak it. The Bulus in the south, you have millions. The Doualas, maybe 400,000. You see, so it really depends on, there's a lot of variance. At the same time, a lot of similarities on those languages. You muted yourself.
You're muted, Damaris.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, I muted myself. Okay. So Sabina had a question about languages as well, but she says it looked like it's been answered. But if you have something more, Sabina, you can add as we go. But Salmova had a question, just asked, it would be better if you can give some information about education in this country, that is in Cameroon. I think you touched a little bit on education where you said you have different systems of education. Perhaps you can give more information, a little bit more light about how is it a different system completely? Is it the same system but taught in different languages? So.
Okay, there are two different systems, and as I said, they were inherited from two different colonial powers. So the English system is based on actually the British system of education, where you have, and even the exams. When I was still at my generation, most of the exams, and I went to both sides. So I studied both in French and in English. So I live on both sides. So when I was on the English speaking side, the exams, especially they had GCE, General Certificate of Education, ordinary level, which you get up when you are in class 5, from 5 secondary school. So these exams were set in England. They were set in Cambridge, and then administered in Cameroon. So you had GCE O level, GCE A level, General Certificate of Education A level, which would be the 12th grade, correspond to 12th grade here. And you had to, and for them, it was in terms of how many papers you taken. How many papers you taken. So but the system, they all started school at the same time, either in the French side or English side. Same age of 6, just like you have here. And they have the same way, 12 years from, from first grade to 12th grade. So they have those 12 years, or basically I'll say 13 years actually, because it's 1 year beyond the US. Yeah. So, and every level then, in elementary school to secondary school, common entrance exam that where English is spoken, they go through the exam same day, all the schools. And so it's from there that the selection is made for different secondary schools. And when they go to secondary school, then they move from 1, from 2, from 3, from 4, from 5. Okay, from 5 to class 5. At the end of class 5 or from 5, they take the General Certificate of Education ordinary level. General Certificate of Education ordinary level. So when you have that, and on that side, the General Certificate of Education ordinary level is based on number of papers, so different subjects. So you take an exam in each of the subjects that you've chosen. Okay, so beyond that O level, you have 2 years again, where you go to lower 6th, upper 6th. So which is 11th, 12th grade. And at the end of it, you write the exam again. There's a national exam called General Certificate of Education Advanced Level. Once you have two papers at that advanced level, you just walk to the university. There's no entrance there's no exam to the university. You go to the university. And at the university, let me go to the French side next. The French side is exactly about the same, but modeled after the French system of education. Modeled after the French system of education, which means you go from CIL, which will be first grade, to cinquième. Cinquième is 7th grade. Then from sixième to terminal. Sixième to terminal is from sixth, what was that grade now? It's from 6th grade to 12th grade. And for them, at the end of year, when you're in secondary school, the 4th year in secondary school, you have an exam. You take an exam that allows you to go to spend 2 more years or 3 more years in high school. At the end of high school, then there's an exam, a very competitive exam called baccalaureate. When you take the baccalaureate, you have to pass the baccalaureate to get access to the university. Now, the catch is that once you get to the university, your professor If your professor is more French speaking, is at ease in French, they come to class and teach in French. If your professor is much more at ease in English, they come to class and teach in English. The catch is that at the end, when the exams are set, you can you can write your exam in either French or English. You can write your exam in either French or English. And the professor then has to be able to read both. So that's the system, that's the bilingual system that the Cameroon talks about. So everything is, you juggle that. But recently also at my time, they used to start, the Anglophone used to start learning French when they got to secondary school. And the Francophone used to start learning English when they got to secondary school as well. But as from about 15 years ago, they start both languages in elementary school, in kindergarten. So you grow up with both languages at the same time.
All right. So Emmanuel, the last point that you made about introducing both languages in lower level of education somehow seems like it's a way of addressing the problem, kind of trying to unite the country. So it does seem like initially there were two different systems, but you have common universities, you do these different systems up to high school, and then you join common universities. Wow, that's huge. Perhaps think the introduction of different, the two languages earlier on might really.
It's happened, but since the majority is Francophone,
Okay.
the Anglophones always feel that they are the short end of the stick.
Yeah.
Because if you go to the university, majority of professors will be French speaking.
Mm-hmm.
See, which means now you go through the English system and you get to the university and most of your professors are French speaking. Problem.
Wow, that's huge. I perhaps think we can continue. I know people might be asking follow-up questions as we go.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to go through the questions in the chat and then we can open it up for everybody else who has a question that they want to ask verbally.
That sounds good.
Was talking about the dialect, like why are so many dialects in Cameroon? Are they derived from Germany, US, and France? I believe no, but why do you have so many?
I really, I've been asking myself that question, and I don't know whether any Cameroonian will be able to answer that question. We were born into it, who grew up in it, and I can't tell you the origin of those languages, why they came to Cameroon, because Nigeria has about the same problem. They have the same kind of problem of many local languages. So I don't know whether it's a migration pattern, how they came in, whether many migratory group left some people in Cameroon with their language. I can't really explain why.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just trying to say that we have historians in the room, perhaps the people from history that can be able to help us figure this out. Why so many? It's not just in Cameroon. There are many other African countries that have multiple ethnic groups. But a quick question on that before I move on about the language.
Mm-hmm.
What was I going to ask? I hope. So in the English-speaking side of Cameroon, we have different ethnic languages there, except for English, local languages, that is. So does everybody in that region, does everybody in Anglophone French speak English? That's a question. Because, okay, if not.
Or does everybody in the Anglophone section speak English?
Yes. So no. I'm asking that question because which other, how do the people in that region, or even on the other side?
That's why I talked of.
Is there another language, local language that they use as a group, and the same thing with the Anglophone speaking side?
That's why I talked of pidgin English.
Oh, Pidgin English.
Remember I mentioned Pidgin English?
Yes.
That's a vehicular language
Okay.
that people who do not come from the same ethnic group, who do not speak English, that's what they use. And Pidgin English is a combination of some African local languages and some English.
Oh, okay.
Because I can say, let me say, I dey go chop. That's Pidgin English. I dey go chop. What did you hear from that?
I'm going to work.
I dey go chop.
I'll go to work or something like that.
Anyone knows what I'm talking about?
Somebody please help. You can unmute yourself and try to respond.
I dey go chop, or I dey go for market.
I dey go chop would mean I'm going to eat.
Exactly.
Oh, I thought it's job. Okay. Somebody needs to get up.
Who say you come from?
Malawi actually, but I had Nigerian roommates who taught me some Pidgin.
Okay, yeah. No, I was just saying that's another Pidgin English that I was saying. I said, who say you they come from? Who say you they come from?
Oh, wow.
Did everybody get that? That's Pidgin. Where are you from? Yeah.
And then do you have something similar in the Francophone speaking?
Unfortunately, no.
Unfortunately, no.
Unfortunately, no. And that's why the Francophones have remained a lot. They have been well assimilated to France because they did not come up with a French Creole. You see, the Anglophone, they have Pidgin English, which makes the Anglophone section or the English-speaking part of the continent a little bit more culturally that culturally they are not as colonized as the French speaking.
All right. And would you say that most of the population in the Francophone region speak French?
No.
Okay.
No.
That is answered. Let's move on. I see that we're having many more questions here. And Katie is asking, have there been any proposed solutions to help bridge the divide between French speakers and English speakers? What would you?
It's a very good question. It's because so far the powers that be have not made any effort to listen to the cries, the plight of the English-speaking part of the country. In 1985, a group of students, young English-speaking Cameroonians wrote an open letter to the president of the country. And it seems as if, I don't know how they did it, but most of the things that they were asking for, or most of the things that they were warning the country against, is exactly what 20 years later led to the beginning of the crisis. Because they were raising certain issues and asking the power structure to try to solve, try to address some of those issues. They did not. They did not. And in 2016, it exploded.
So for like, what was it, 30 years, they just ignored?
Yeah, okay. They just ignored, yeah. I mean, they're suffering I think the Anglophone side is suffering the problem that minorities in different parts of the world suffer. They suffer about the same kind, yeah.
Yeah. Wow. We'll be adding more into the questions. I mean, perhaps we could be having people asking more follow-ups and all that. The final question, if I'm not wrong here, it's about the religion, like which do you practice? I would say Christianity, Islam, Judaism, yeah.
Okay.
Religion.
Thank you. I had it down, but I didn't. Yeah. Cameroon is again, you have the Christianity, you have Islam, and traditional practices, spiritual practices. The Islam is about 20% of the population. Christianity is about 60% of the population, and the rest practice some form of African traditional, they practice some form of African spirituality, or Cameroonian spirituality, let's put it that way. I don't want to say they practice traditional religion because it's not a religion per se, it's a, yeah. One of the good things about Cameroon is that those two religions that of course are foreign to Cameroon, I'm talking about Islam and Christianity, that are foreign to Cameroon, have been able to coexist very well so far. For all Christian holidays, even Muslim friends celebrate because it's a day off for everybody. For all Muslim holidays, the Christians celebrate it with them. So there's really a great harmony between those two imported religions to Cameroon. Let me just tell a short story. I usually take students to Cameroon, and a few years ago, I took students to Cameroon. That was 2014. We got there. We were visiting a region or a city that is majority Muslim. And we were visiting the city on the day of the Ramadan, where they had a feast of the Ramadan. We got there, fortunately, there was a ceremony, a celebration. And in that celebration, you had the imam, the head of the religious church. You had the what do you call them? The Catholic, the cardinal. You had a cardinal and someone from the traditional society. They were all three of them there celebrating that Muslim holiday, all three together, marching together. So I use that opportunity as a teaching tool for my students. I told them, I said, well, you may hear from the outside that Islam and Christianity do not coexist, but Cameroon is an example of how religions can coexist and so on. So yes, so we have the northern part of the country is Islam. The southern part of the country, mostly Christian.
Okay, all right. I want to, is Eben here? I think Eben again disappeared. That's okay. I wanted to give it back to him, but the internet has not been working well for him.
Okay.
So I will open this up to everybody that is still here to, if you have a question, if you have a comment that you want to raise, please go ahead. And Eben, I was turning the mic back to you if your internet allows. And just to mention, we have our friends and colleagues from Uzbekistan.
Mm-hmm.
And it was 8 a.m. there. I was just giving them a chance. Perhaps they might want to go back. Maybe Gold Chakra, I don't know if you had a question or something. I just wanted to give you an opportunity in case it's too late for you. It's morning, basically. And if
a lot of sacrifice.
You might want to leave and retire to bed, we'll just give you an opportunity to, if you have something to say before everybody else can join in.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate Emmanuel, your productive presentation. Even also it's morning. We had very good mood because of your presentation, and we got lots of information about that. And even so, it's very late. We're talking with our group mates, with my students, how it was so effective. And I think most of the questions were given by my students, and that we were interested. That's why I just wanted to comment. Thank you so much, and we are very happy to catch up with your presentation. And I'm very happy that I chose this day. Thank you so much, Choti, and we will try to participate most of your presentation as well. Good luck to your career, Emmanuel. Better, more flourishing days to Cameroon.
That's wonderful.
Together.
It was wonderful to have you yesterday. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, and then thank you also from my my student Elena as well.
Thank you.
Have a good day to you. Love you. Hello from Pakistan as well.
That's wonderful.
Wonderful. I just want to mention that Gulchakra was here last year. She was a Fulbright scholar, foreign language teaching assistant, right?
Yeah.
Yes, in the Department of Languages here at MSU. Thank you so much. So she joined us and invited her students to join us. So thank you. And please come back as much as you can. We know it's late, but anytime that you have an opportunity.
Yeah.
So Eben, do you want to take over? Is your internet fine?
Hello.
Hello, we're back with the questions. We're done with the questions in the chat. I believe so. So we are in the open discussion. Anybody can join in and ask a question or comment. That's where we are.
Yeah, sure. So I don't know if anybody wants to ask a question, you can just go ahead. If we have too many people, then maybe we'll start raising our hands. No more questions?
Maybe not. Okay.
Which means I've answered most of the questions. So.
Yeah, of course you did. I definitely did.
All right. So if no more questions, I don't know if Prof has some closing remarks before I turn it over to Damaris.
Ben, I think this it's always been a very rewarding experience to do this, especially talking about a country that I love so much. But I was a little bit, you know, when you love something so much, it's also sometimes very difficult to talk about it because you don't want to, at least at some point, give the impression that that your passion for it dominates the message that you're sending out. And so what I tried to do then was to give you the best of what I could do to present a picture of Cameroon that, like any other society, has its difficulties, its problems, and so on. But I'm just happy to see many of you who were in attendance. I'm happy to see that. Thank you.
All right.
Great. Thank you very much. This has been very informative, and thank you for the sacrifice of your time and helping us to do this. We really appreciate it.
No problem. You're very welcome.
All right. So Damaris, any closing remarks from your end, closing announcements?
Sure. First, I really wish to thank Dr. Yewah so much. As he already said, he's not new to MSU or to the African Studies Center or to Tea Time. He has presented before, and we definitely appreciate. already Eben said that this is a forum where we get to learn more about Africa, different aspects of Africa, good and bad, right?
Yep.
Yeah, this is the forum where we just get to share a lot of information about what's going on in different African countries. And most of the time we invite people that are from those countries, as well as those people who have traveled or do studies in those countries. So, and we invite those to also share in the discussion or facilitate the discussions as well. So at this point, I want to thank everyone for joining us. And as we said, this happens every 2 weeks, like bi-weekly. The next session is going to be on February 4th. Oh my God, I don't have my, Eben, do you remember the countries? It's going to be Zimbabwe and Namibia. Thank God, I have the schedule in my brain. We're going to have Namibia, and we're going to talk about youth engagement in youth engagement in politics. It's going to be a fascinating discussion.
Yeah.
We definitely want to see you back. We definitely want to see you back here. And please feel free all the time to ask your questions in the comments. You can ask it verbally. We want to make this as open as it can be. That's why we don't even make it. We make it a meeting. We don't make it. What is that other one? Forum. There is not a meeting. Zoom meeting, and it's what?
A webinar.
Webinar.
A webinar.
So much. Because you want to see faces. You want to hear people talk.
Yeah.
That's the major reason why we make this a meeting instead of a webinar. So I don't think really, I thought Sarah was here.
You know,
we already talked about who Kongamano is.
You know, one of the things before you finish, one of the things I was going to throw out, which since Cameroon was a German territory, I was going to see if there's anyone from Namibia, anyone from Tanzania, or anyone from Togo, because these were all German colonies. If for some reason they were cross, the Germans were moving people from one place to another within their colonies, then it might not be shocking to find Cameroonians, people of Cameroonian origin in Namibia. It would not be shocking to find people of Cameroonian origin in Tanzania, and it would probably not be shocking to find people of those origins in Togo, and vice versa.
Wow, it's possible, yes. Migration, yeah.
That's work that needs to be done, because we may finally understand why Cameroon will be at the crossroads.
Okay. So if you have a chance next week, we have a speaker who is based in Namibia right now, perhaps.
Yeah.
To that. And sometimes we have people from Tanzania joining us because on Zoom, as we said. We can bring up that discussion back again, for sure, like as part of the discussion.
Now, when you said the next one is
February
Zimbabwe and Namibia?
Namibia and Zimbabwe, yes.
Okay, so that's the next one on February 4th.
It's always 4 to 6. We have the same time on Thursdays.
It's on 4th, January 4th.
No, February 4th.
I mean February 4th.
Yes.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah. And we're going to share this again via social media and via email. We're going to share the next detailed information about the next presentations, but I don't think I have anything else than to wish you all a good evening, good morning for those who are still here. There is morning in the area, and we look back. We look forward to seeing you back here in 2 weeks.
Very good.
Thank you so much, and thanks so much, Eben, for facilitating.
Hey, good to see you, Katie. Good for you to have come. All right.
So
thank you.
Wants to stay behind and chat a little bit. I'm gonna be here. We ended earlier, which is good, but this Zoom is going to be open for anyone that wants to stay to catch up, to say hi. I'll be here until everybody leaves. So please very welcome. But thank you so much again, everybody, and Dr. Yewah for the fascinating discussion.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I'll stay for a little bit too.
That's good. Sure. Yeah, we'll just give it a few more minutes for whoever that wants to leave, and then we can just talk.
Yeah.
We don't have to talk about Cameroon, right?
Mhm.